Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Always Online podcast, multiplayer gaming at its finest, brought to you by mmorpg.com, your home for all things multiplayer related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magicman, and yes, I'll say it until I'm in my 50s. I don't care. I don't care. There's a callback, Q. There's a callback. You wait months and months for that callback. We got a lot of news today on the Riot Games front, including their new fighting game, which we got some details about. Ghostcrawler taking to Twitter and talking a lot about the MMO that's in the works. And then, of course, Blizzard just doing fuck all and whatever the hell they do. And making things and then deciding not to make things. And we've got a bunch of other stuff to cover. Joining me to go through it all today, of course, Ms. Quinlan Bowers. What's up, Q? Aren't I already in my 50s? No. Shut up. I'm not even close to my 50s.
I'm sad today.
Why?
I came in and found Goku on the floor.
Oh my! What happened? One of the cats, right?
I guess I'm gonna guess, and he's like 20 some odd years old. Like it's one of those model kits that you would put together. Yeah. So I guess I'm gonna have to glue his head back on. Not that Goku's head ever did him any good, anyway.
Power definitely not over 9,000 tonight. Definitely not over. We are, of course, doing the show live, twitch.tv/MMOBomb. We've got chat here ready to chime in on a bunch of things as well. Join us sometime if you get a chance. Every Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern, if you're watching on YouTube, listening on iTunes or Spotify, or on mmobomb.com. You know, the site that pays the bills. Go visit it. Thank you so much. Click like, click subscribe, turn on those notifications. Every little bit helps feed that algorithm. So that we get to continue hiring people like Aspen Pash. What's up, Rose Hoppa?
Oh, so happy to be fully moved in now. Hopefully the quality's better from last time.
Yeah, last time we were via iPad.
Yes.
And it worked. Your iPad was fine. It did its job. Yeah, it did its job. How is the new place? How are the digs?
It's nice. I'm just trying my best not to wake up my mother-in-law, who's like sleeping in the room behind me. So
we will try not to make you excited with any news.
Or angry. Yeah. Perfect.
Well, no promises on that one. Let's get started with the news and we'll jump right into it. So like I said, we have an awful lot to talk about today, and I do want to spend a fair amount of time on Riot, because I think it's Greg Street, Ghostcrawler's tweets are worth talking about a little bit. But before we do, we got some news today. If you are planning to take advantage or play Tower of Fantasy when it comes out in about 5 days, you can still pre-register for some of the prizes, the freebies that are on the site there. They've met a bunch of different stretch goals, so if you're going to play it, go do it. And we just posted an article today right before this cast, about some of the changes that you can expect if you took part in the beta, including, Q, I guess what we assume is a boob slider. It says that you will now be able to modify the chest in character creation. So I think you're right when you read that as boob slider.
I mean, it's either that or whatever they've got going on in Chimera Land, which is just really weird. Justin was showing it to me, and it was just like, you can lift him up, make him go this way, like.
But I did want to stop. So, Aspen, you have you've started your new column. You're going to see columns from the writers. Weekly columns, and Aspen wrote her first one. It went up yesterday for you Genshin Impact fans out there. She's given you the lowdown on weapons, on artifacts, and it's just going to expand into ability sets and like all kinds of extra goody information on different characters is how we're initially starting this. Great piece if you want to go check it out, and that'll be up every Thursday, so you Genshin fans can look forward to those guides. They're wonderful by a very experienced Genshin Impactite? A Whoville. Got it. A Whoville. Yeah. A Whoville. They are a Whoville, Q. They're the Whovilles. So I actually, before we get started with the Riot stuff, Aspen, knowing how much of a Genshin Impactor you are you interested in Tower of Fantasy? A lot of people making the comparison to Genshin Impact. On this show, I've kind of said I liken it a little more to Honkai Impact with the Honkai Impact 3rd due to like the more open world nature of some of what Tower of Fantasy is doing. It's not as single player-ish as Genshin Impact is, but they are undoubtedly going to target a lot of the same audience. So is TOF something you're looking forward to?
So honestly, I wanted to be into TOF. I really, really did, but at the end of the day, like there was so much sketchy stuff that happened in the beginning, and if you don't know about it, like it's a quick research. Like they stole a lot of Genshin reviews from
we
Google.
talked about all of those on a show maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah. So besides that, I'm not a big fan of pay to win games in a PvP setting personally. I just never liked that, and because it is an MMO and you are playing with other people, I have heard if you're trying to play free to play, it's extremely difficult. Like you can't play alone if you're playing free to play because the raid bosses are just too difficult. Like you need to be with other people to do it. So you either have to dish out money or have friends. And you know what? Sometimes you don't have money or friends. So it's limited. It's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Not all of us have money or friends, Q.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times those two things go together. You have money, you have friends.
That's true. So it makes sense that sometimes you don't have either or. And
how do you view it as pay to win? Because yes, it does have PvP. Yes, it does have the the gacha pool systems that we see in games like Genshin Impact. Characters and weapons are basically the same thing. They're joined at the hip, right? You pick a character because you want to use that weapon or that skill set in Tower of Fantasy. Unlike Genshin, where you have the same character and you swap weapons on the fly, you actually swap characters in TOF to swap to a different weapon. But how is it pay to win? Because the concern that I had on this front wasn't that you could directly buy power. Right, the PvP, like the ranked PvP at least, open world's a different story, but the ranked PvP is kind of scaled where everybody is pushed into the same stat bracket. But, so you can't buy extra stats. But in PvP games, my concern was always that there is a meta, and the meta shifts, right? This character is really strong, then they nerf something, and this character becomes really strong. And since characters are weapons here, there's going to be a meta in Tower of Fantasy. And the people that are spending more money to pool are more likely to get characters that are going to cycle in and out of the meta than somebody relying on doing the free pools. You may not have the current character that is high-tier meta at the moment. So from that aspect, I kind of thought that's a little pay to win, but it's still random. But if you're spending $200 to mine none, you definitely have a better shot of having the current meta character in your lineup than I do. Is there something that I don't know about Tower of Fantasy that makes it a little more pay to win in your mind?
All I know is that because it's been out in China for some time now, technically, if you did enough research, you could kind of find out which characters are meta and which ones you should whale for, per se, or try to get. Like, I think there's, I don't know his name. There's one guy and his weapon's like a mech suit. And he's like the most powerful character in the game. So they say if you don't get him, the game is hard. Like, he's the character you need. So that kind of stinks. Like, if you didn't know that and you missed him, and the game just becomes almost impossible after that. But
so it's not for
I don't
you,
know.
huh? I mean, plenty of PvE stuff. So then the argument becomes, Aspen, okay, fine, don't PvP if that's not your thing. And obviously you're playing Genshin Impact and you love it a lot, so PvP isn't important to you in these types of games because Genshin's, doesn't do it. So why not just sit back and enjoy the PvE stuff?
Yeah, you could enjoy the PvE stuff, but even then, there are some difficult, once you get farther into the campaign, apparently, stuff gets pretty difficult even then if you're trying to be free to play. Wow. So I've heard. Again, this is just what I've heard, so I could be completely wrong. Like, take it as what it is, but...
Well, we absolutely will be doing First Look. Obviously, let us know your thoughts on this, because by the time we regroup next Friday for the Always Online podcast, it will have been out for a few days. You can preload on the 9th, and then it launches on the 10th. Okay, so Q, let's talk about some Riot and Blizzard news. Let's start with Riot, because this is actually good stuff. Like we talked a little bit about Riot settlement last week. Let's talk about some good stuff. Their Project L fighting game continues to move forward in development. That's their 2D fighter under the codename Project L. Project L, obviously capitalizing on League of Legends and some of the legends in there as well. Some cool trailers, things like that. Ilaoi, I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it. Kraken Priestess. Let's go with that. Showed off. But in the dev video, they also talked about it will be free to play, which wasn't confirmed, but we thought was most likely going to be the case. But now we do know it is going to be free to play. And they specifically had a few choice words to say about the monetization queue.
Yeah, so this is one of those things that we've heard this kind of thing before from other companies, and they change their mind and stuff later on. But basically, they said that they're taking the approach. They want to be respectful of the players and their players' wallets, and they're using the approach. And I've heard this several times before from lots of other companies. If it's something they wouldn't want done, if they wouldn't like it, they're not going to do it. Of course, the one big difference between Riot and a lot of other companies, right, is while yes, they do have a parent company, or however you want to think about it, their parent company is more or less hands off and isn't necessarily going to step in and be like, no, you have to change this. So it might just be fine. Like it might actually work out the way they're saying it'll work out just based on that, versus somebody under EA going, yeah, we'll totally be this way with monetization, and EA going, you're not making enough money fast enough, so you got to change all that.
Right.
Thanks.
And I mean, obviously, Riot does have a track record with monetization that most people are happy with in League of Legends. Kind of a pioneer on the way free-to-play was done in the West back then when it came out. Obviously, under fire a little bit right now for monetization in that game because of the whole price increase, which we talked about a few weeks ago. Then they have RuneScape or Runeterra, Legends of Runeterra, the card game. Like everything they do, like you just don't hear, Aspen, about Riot Games doing gross monetization on the free-to-play front. Again, setting aside price increases, which they announced a little while ago.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Riot, honestly, but I'm afraid to say that ever since I liked Blizzard once upon a time. Not trying to jinx Riot now.
Well, I mean, Riot's had its fair share of the Blizzard accusations and stuff too, so.
Yeah,
They were actually accused first.
Yeah, first.
So
Q, it's not a race. It's not a race. And if it is, it's an absolutely terrible one.
Right, it's an awful race. And they're taking their time about it on both sides. It's like neither one had really decided to be the hare. They were both like, yeah, we'll just both be the tortoise. So
now, Old Glory in chat saying that Valorant skins, on the other hand, are a little overpriced, and maybe you would agree with that. But again, you're looking at that saying, I don't want to pay that much for that skin, Aspen. Not looking at that going, I don't want to play Valorant because I don't want to pay, and if I don't, I'm asked out. You don't really have that argument in the Riot Games portfolio.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you going to play this, Aspen? Like, are you a fighter girl? You do those?
No, I am not.
Brawlers like Super Smash or Multiverses?
I do like Smash, but I mean, Smash is a classic. And it's Nintendo, so it's a bit more nice.
So have you tried Multiverses at all yet? With the Warner
No, but
Brothers
I've only
mashup?
heard really, really good things.
People getting pissed about some nerfs in that game lately, though. Like, everybody's...
People always get mad about nerfs.
Yeah.
People get mad about anything.
This is true.
Just go on Twitter. Like, someone's mad about something.
Yeah, update on what we talked about last week, by the way, with the whole Destiny 2 thing. And them kind of peeling back on communications a little bit because of threats while they kind of built safeguards. there's some stuff that has been made public now on exactly what those threats were, and they were not somebody using a racist slur and calling it a day. They were pretty bad. So yeah, I know some people in chat last week were saying, what constitutes, like, how far were these people go? It was bad. It was bad. It was bad. On the other Riot front, which I think is a little more interesting because, we're all waiting for that League of Legends MMO, right? We're all kind of just waiting to see how well they pull this off. They do have Greg Street, a.k.a. Ghostcrawler of old Blizzard World of Warcraft fame on the team leading the project. And they tipped this a while ago, and then that was it. That was it, Q. Hey, we're working on an MMO. And then radio silence. And so I guess he's been getting a lot of questions, from fans, from press, from everybody, kind of saying, why did you kind of announce that you were doing this way? You just kind of like tweeted it out and then nothing. It was a weird way to do it. You didn't have any real information. You just said you're working on it. And so he took to Twitter and had a few thoughts. Obviously, I'm not going to read them all. It is a pretty extensive thread. But to pick up on a few points on why they did it, he said the announcement was actually the idea of our CEO. We thought it made sense to low-key announce to help with recruiting. We need a lot of MMO vets. I could certainly see that, right? Riot Games is working on an MMO. All of a sudden, that might open up the talent pool a little bit of maybe people not so happy where they work right now and want to go work somewhere else. To excite players, and because we thought it would likely leak anyway. Often in this business, you worry about someone scooping you, but that's harder to do with an MMO. Everyone more or less knows how to make one. The challenge is actually doing so and the massive cost and time it takes. So, Q, I think this was a little more of when he's talking about scooping you, not necessarily somebody leaking the information and scooping the announcement. This kind of, if you read it through, it kind of points to more of we don't want another company coming into your space and creating the same type of product you're going to create and it get to market first. His point being, yeah, we all know how to create MMOs, but that scooping usually doesn't happen on that front due to the costs associated.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, with MMOs, we all know how MMOs are created. There's a lot of discussion. Of course, everybody actually working in the industry, having made MMOs, knows how it is done. But it is one of those things where, like, even Blizzard, when they went to do another, a secondary MMO, ended up scrapping it and turning it into Overwatch. So,
oh yeah, Project Titan, yeah.
It's not like creating an MMO is easy. And he's right, you do need MMO vets. It's not like back, when they were MMOs were first becoming a thing. And there, you had early days of WoW and holy shit, my brain just fried. EverQuest and all of that jazz. Like it's not like that anymore. There are things that players expect from MMOs. You need to know how to do it, implement it right. You need to figure out the monetization because there's so many different varieties of that now. There used to be a variety, right? You buy the game, you pay a monthly sub, but that's it. There's all of these things that you have to know how to do and implement correctly in order to create a lasting MMO, and they need people to do it with. So it did make sense to just kind of do it that way, just kind of announce it. And it's not like this is the only media this kind of thing happens on. And it's not like this is only kind of like what I guess last year Amazon announced that they were doing season 2 of Good Omens. And I sit here, I follow Neil Gaiman on Twitter, and I sit here and watch everybody go, so what's going to happen with this? What's going to happen with that? What's going to happen with this? And his response every time is literally just wait and see, or some variation thereof. And it's kind of the same thing. Like once some people find out about it, they're going to be sending you all kinds of questions because they just got to know. But at the end of the day, they don't even know because it's an MMO and they got to figure out what they're doing with it. So
yeah, and Aspen, he kind of addresses, us, the media, right, in this whole thread, talking about, Yeah, obviously, if we start releasing information, then it kind of becomes news. And these sites want clicks. They're going to cover it. If we drop screenshots, if we drop videos and stuff like this, sites are less likely, and I think he's wrong in this particular case because he is freaking Ghostcrawler and he is known to be working on a Riot MMORPG. But I think generally speaking, he's right in the media is far less likely to be paying attention to what he calls the ramblings of some developer on their own personal Twitter account. But then you do have to counterbalance that, right, with now that you've announced, and that is public knowledge, there is that danger we talked about with Soulframe a number of weeks ago of announcing too early. And then the interest wanes, or people start perceiving maybe something is wrong with the project because they're not hearing about it. And so they start looking elsewhere. There is always that danger in announcing early, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess with something as big as, League and Riot, interest waning, I can't really see happening. But I definitely can see people thinking like, oh gosh, they're gonna scrap it. Like, it's gone. They mentioned it and it's already gone because that happens all the time. So I'm glad
This
that
coming from the guy, by the way, that did tweet, what, a month or two ago, that
yeah,
if it's
exactly.
not good, we'll cancel it.
Yeah. I actually thought it was canceled because of that. I was like, well, easy come, easy go.
Now, his
So I
point,
am happy that it's here.
yeah, and his point on that, like maybe, hey, we want people to know we're working on it. It helps us recruit talent. It helps us in a number of ways, including, and I kind of I should have thought of this being a software developer, but I didn't think of it. He was like, if we announce, it helps us. And if we don't show anything while we're going, it actually makes our development a little bit easier in that we can extract things that aren't working a lot easier. We can say that system doesn't work. It's not combining with this system. It was a great idea, but it's just not working the way we want it. Pull it out. Where if they had been showing information queued, then it's a little harder to do that because now you have players chiming in with the feedback and you get that whole loop where some people are going to feel heard because you took the system out. Some people are going to feel not heard because you took the system out and they wanted it to stay. And right now they don't have to deal with that because they're just not showing anything about the game. But they do plan, obviously, to do big announcements, answer the big questions, do the videos and stuff like that. But they just don't want to do it in like an E3 splashy presentation, and then you never hear about the game for another year or so. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with the approach. I've been mulling it over for a couple of days. And I think this only works the way Greg says it does because of how high profile the project is and how high profile the company is. I think having this approach on, let's say, an unknown IP, but being produced by a tested developer, so you have faith that it may come out. Let's look at Soulframe, a perfect example. You have faith that Digital Extremes is probably going to deliver a decent product, but they've never done an MMORPG before, and it's done in an unknown IP. I disagree with Greg's approach if I'm Digital Extremes, and I think Digital Extremes announced too early, now knowing that we're not going to see Soulframe at the Game Awards the way I interpreted the original press release. I think this only works in his very specific situation, or am I nuts?
I mean, I guess it's one of those things where you do have to take a lot of that stuff into account when you're trying to decide how to do it. I mean, yeah, because with most of Riot stuff, you can pretty much guarantee that whatever they're doing is going to be League of Legends related in some way, right?
Right.
Like that's almost just the safe bet. Sure, they might come and do something that's not, but they're planning on building like this entire thing around League stuff. Like, so why veer out of that? So they already have the lore. They already have all of that built in. You know that they are like they're and that they're pulling in from, like known MMO developers. So like that kind of stuff works. Now with Digital Extremes, I mean, I personally I'm gonna watch and see what they're doing because I know a lot of people were like, oh well, it was just one trailer and it's a cinematic, but what they showed in the trailer was interesting to me personally. But then again, like it's a lot of people, like it with so much stuff coming out now, it is a little bit harder. And then you always, the other thing is I think people know that you can easily get burned that way. Like, how long did we wait for Cyberpunk?
Yeah.
Right. And the thing is, they announced it. And then they were like, well, we're going to set it, kind of do this kind of thing where we're just not going to talk about it for a while and we're just going to do stuff. And then they came back, 5 years later, and they're like, hey, did their little beep thing or whatever. And then you waited another freaking 5 years, which is all to be expected if they're announcing at the very beginning of their development cycle that they're doing this.
And Ninja Panda's correctly calling out New World in chat here, Aspen. Definitely an example of announcing early and then over the course of the next X years, because they were a little more public-facing in trailers or getting your hands on early alphas and things. That basically evolved from a survival-esque multiplayer game into a PvP-centric MMORPG into a PvE-centric with some cool PvP stuff MMORPG. Like, just systems kept coming online and getting taken out of that game throughout testing for exactly the points that Greg is making here.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like New World is still trying to figure out New World. That's a separate thing, but
I think the only company that can actually get away with that is Hi-Rez. Because that is literally Hi-Rez's development procedure. And there's, it's just kind of one of those things you accept, but everybody else and these big projects, you don't want that.
yeah, I mean, I like what I like about Ghostcrawler, I like that he is so community based.
Yeah.
But I feel like he is very idealistic. I think he sees the glass very, very full when I'm like, it looks empty to me.
Must be full of water because I can see right through that bitch.
Because what he's saying at the end of it, he's saying how he wants to show things to the community and then get their feedback and then make large pivots if it's not what they're expecting. Which, can you really do that? Because you can't listen to everybody. When it comes to MMOs, everybody has their own opinion. And while there are staples, I would just say look at Final Fantasy XIV. They do so many things very, very well. And I feel like that's what you have to base games off of if you want to make an MMO, unless you're making something entirely different, just because that's what I expect, at least if I play an MMO. I expect that level of quality and those features because it's the best. Why make anything else?
Yeah, I do agree that he could be a little rose-colored glasses, but I actually had a lot of respect for Ghostcrawler back in the World of Warcraft days, Q. You may not have liked every design decision or anything like that, but he was very, to Rose's or to Aspen's point, very community-facing, very sometimes blunt about communication or changes that they were making. And I honestly believe that he acted with the intention of making a better game in most of his decisions there. So I do have a bit more faith in him than and the team he has assembled over at Riot than I might in other scenarios. And again, that just loops right back to one of my original points, right? I think this approach works because you are at Riot, because you are creating a League of Legends MMO. Nobody cares how long this takes. Nobody cares how long this takes. They're just, give us a good product. We'll wait. We'll wait.
Yeah, and I think the other benefit on their end is that everybody's been expecting a League of Legends MMO for a very long time. Basically, the minute Riot went, we want to put the games in Riot Games, everybody was like, oh, there's going to be a League MMO.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone. And so then it was just literally a matter of when it was going to happen. And, they brought Ghostcrawler over. What other reason would you bring an MMO developer over to your company for?
Yeah.
We all knew it was going to happen. We were just waiting till when. So them announcing it ahead of time is not like the big blow that it might be to another company, because we already just subconsciously knew it was going to be a thing.
Yep. He does say, conclude by saying, sorry, not sorry about the wait. End of thread right there. He just doesn't want to be in a position where they have to save a rocky launch, although he does acknowledge that games are surprisingly successful at that sometimes. They just want to jump in and say, yeah, this was worth the wait. This is what I wanted. And we'll see. We'll see. I mean, we're still a long way away. A long way away. So, but I don't think this particular game announcing early, you're fine. You're fine. On the Blizzard side of things, oh boy, isn't this fun. Apparently, remember how Diablo Immortal was going to launch in China, courtesy of NetEase, and ran into some problems, and eventually, they got there. They got there eventually. But, apparently that whole Blizzard-NetEase relationship may not be as friendly now as it has been over previous years, because they just scrapped, according to Bloomberg, a mobile World of Warcraft spin-off game that had been in development for 3 years under the codename Neptune. They just scrapped it because Blizzard and NetEase could not agree on the finances. So they scrapped it and sent 100 people packing, 100 developers packing, Rose. Not a good look because you couldn't agree on the finances. Both companies didn't want some of the money. They wanted all of the money.
This makes me so sad. Like, I'm so tired of reading about Blizzard. I really am. And, like, everything's sad. Like, nothing's happy. Like, it's like watching something that, I don't know, it's like watching your ex slowly, like, deteriorate into nothing. Like, you still kind of love them. Like, you feel something for them, but at the same time, like, I'm not going to dumpster dive with you.
At the same time, you're like, that's why I left you. That's why we broke up. Now I remember. I was feeling nostalgic, so little. But now I remember.
Yeah. Like 100 developers they don't care. They don't care about the people that were working there. They don't care about people that might be looking forward to the game. Like finances, that's what it came down to. This giant company.
That is a far cry, Q, to something you said earlier, right? The Blizzard of old. They canceled Titan because it didn't meet their internal expectations as far as being a fun game. They canceled this because they couldn't agree on the finances. Like, if you need another example of Blizzard of old, and even arguably in the Project Titan era, it wasn't exactly like the Blizzard of old, but it still wasn't as just money as it is now.
I mean, I'm sure there's been lots of evolutions of Blizzard. There's the Blizzard that existed, early on when like Metzen was first creating the map for WoW, and everything. Like there's that Blizzard, and then there's we're kind of, we're getting good at this and turning into the Ivory Tower Blizzard. That we've been bought by Activision Blizzard, which is pretty much what is where the real slow degradation, I would say, probably started, because it's Activision. Like, so long under Activision's rule, and everything is just terrible because that's the way that company is, and that's the way that company tells you they are on a very public basis. So, I mean, it's just one of those things. Once it's what she was saying, like it's like watching your ex, but it's like watching your ex when they hook up with somebody incredibly terrible that makes them even worse. And that's what you have here.
Financially, it did. Oh, yeah, that's a good point too. Old Glory saying Tencent did not agree with whatever company about the Lotro MMO in the same way. That was Amazon. And as soon as we found out Tencent was now involved by proxy of or by way of purchasing Leu Technologies at the time, we were like, these two companies are going to butt heads, and immediately they did. They were both way too big to be working together on a project like that. Q2 results, speaking of money for Activision Blizzard, they weren't all that great either. Not all terrible. And again, we got to constantly remember with financials this year, gang, that we are comparing to last year with lockdowns and just record gaming revenue across the board because everybody was stuck at home when we're talking about Q1 and Q2 of 2021 versus 2022 here. But yeah, there was a decline in revenue. There was a decline in monthly users. So yeah, not great. Not great across the board. I mean, they expected these to a certain extent. And if you want to look at silver linings, I mean, there is some good news in here that they're starting to show more growth going the other way. A lot of that has to do with Diablo Immortal, which is adding a ton of monthly average users, which is a misleading statistic to begin with. They do that so they can obfuscate. King, on the Activision Blizzard King side of things, doing tremendously well, rolling in that Candy Crush money. And then we still have the Microsoft buyout that's moving forward, Q. So Bobby Kotick taking advantage of the fact that there was no investor call. They've stopped doing investor calls as they move forward with the Microsoft buyout because they don't want to be perceived as trying to influence anything. They just release the finances. Bobby Kotick makes a statement this time that has nothing to do with revenue because he can't, and moves on. So how do they make up that money, Aspen? I'll tell you how. You send out a survey to your Overwatch 2 players, and you say, how do you feel about paying $45 for an Overwatch 2 skin, Aspen?
So good about it. I'm so excited. Here's my credit card number. Write it down.
Where can I click save? I don't want to have to type this in every time.
Oh my goodness. It's just, that's a lot of money. Like, even if, like, obviously, like, what they said was like, no, that was just like one of the numbers we were looking at. Like, we sent lots of different surveys out with lots of different numbers, so it's not like we're thinking $45 for a skin or $10 for a weapon charm. Also insane. But at the same time, like, that shouldn't have even been an option. Like,
Right?
they're like, we're gonna make a free-to-play game, but we also want your money. So
Here's the thing, too. So people got the survey, and it was gauging interest in pricing for Overwatch 2, skins and odds and ends and cosmetics. And so Porter Gage tweeted about this, saying, here's the copy of my friend's survey. It says $45 on it. What the hell? IGN reached out to Blizzard and said, what's going on? And they said the most ridiculous thing that I can think of when you're trying to do mathematical statistical analysis, Q. They said, hey, the survey was actually randomized per user and is not indicative of final pricing. To which I say, what the hell good is your survey then? What does it get you at the end of the day, statistically speaking, if, hey, my survey is different from Q's, has different numbers, which is different from Aspen's? What do you learn by aggregating that data together? If I said, I'm okay with $15, Q is not okay with $25, and Rose is not okay with $45. That doesn't help you. 1 out of 3 were okay with it at $10. No, you can't make that type of comparison because we weren't all asked the same question.
Yeah, I don't know how the data works out for them on that. I mean, it sounds like kind of a bullshit response, but this is one of those weird places where I'm actually going to agree with Tikal for once. I don't, on cosmetics, I don't really care what they price the cosmetics at because I think like you can just not buy cosmetics. That's really what it comes down to. It does not affect your gameplay. And I mean, dude, I paid $7 for a sip tea emote in XIV. Like, it's, and I feel like just like if you want free to play, I want them to put the charges on the cosmetic items. That's where I want them to be charging people, especially in a competitive ish game, right? That's where I want it to be. I don't want it to be on boosts or anything like that that actually affects the gameplay, how your character looks. If you want to pay $45 for it, that's fine. And I have 3 words for you: $90 monocle.
Yeah, good old Eve. There's a throwback. Like,
it's not like this is new. It's and I and when Eve said it then, when they were like doing what they were trying to do is make it as relative to real life as possible, and therefore make variations of fashion, right? So some people pay $200, $300 for a pair of jeans, and other people go to Walmart, right? And they were trying to do that shit, and I'm fine with that. Like, if you want to buy the $15 pair of in-game jeans instead of the $300 one, that's, you know. But of course, they would find out that not many people would pay that money. Is what if they just threw it in there? That's what they would really find out.
All right,
Like, well, we have these
let me
variations.
devil's advocate you on 2 points, because I don't disagree
Okay.
with you. I don't disagree with Takao personally. Charge whatever the hell you want. Let the market decide whether that cost can be absorbed or not. But I'm going to bring up 2 points that kind of, I would say, could counter that. One is the manipulative nature of cash shops in general, right? You cannot, in most games, just spend $100 to get that $100 cape or whatever you're going to buy. Most of them require some type of currency washing. The bundles are always priced in exactly the way they need, so that you need to buy 2 or 3 of the smaller ones or buy one big one and one small one. And look, I ended up with 2,000 extra gems to get that cape. Well, I might as well just spend another $40 and grab the matching boots then, because they're manipulative in that regards and prey on people that don't take the time to think those through. The second point, more specifically to Overwatch, Aspen, is that you already have a market your clients are used to. So this isn't we're just putting out a new game and let's throw $100 capes in the cash shop and see if they sell. You have a market that is reasonable to compare to. Why did X item cost me $20 in Overwatch that now costs me $45, $80, $90 in Overwatch 2? You still use the same number of people asset-wise to make that cape. It's a digital cape, so you don't have any production costs that have increased or anything besides the art that goes into it. Why'd the price double? So there is a basis for comparison where in a lot of cases you wouldn't have it. Like, what do you compare Eve's $90 monocle to? There was not an Eve 2 that had a $40 monocle. You don't have that. You do here. Do either of those hold any water, though, Aspen?
Like, I really agree with Q on the aspect of if you're gonna have a free-to-play game. I completely agree. That is where you put the currency. You put it in
no
the
disagreement
skins.
from me
Like,
there either. Yeah.
Awesome. But I also think that your point on there's already a market with people are used to the prices. And I wonder if what Blizzard was trying to do was because they're getting rid of their loot boxes, right? They're
Right.
getting rid of this randomized thing where people are spending maybe even more than $45 to get the skin that they want. But that's not how it works. You're not gonna take away one thing to make something more fair and then make it less fair by upping the price. And also, I know nobody else thinks about this, and maybe I'm silly for thinking about it, but there's a lot of kids who play these games. And they have to go to their parents and ask for $45 to buy a skin. Like, it's a ridiculous amount of money. And I feel like kids need to be thought of a little bit more when it comes to gaming and have something a little bit more friendly for kids to, spend money on, because they want to be involved in the video game world. And at times people forget the market and they just think about the adults.
Yep. Fair points. Blizzard does not want somebody else to unionize. Imagine that. Blizzard Albany, formerly Vicarious Visions, their QA team trying to unionize again. We reported on this. We were waiting for a Blizzard response when we talked about it on a cast, I think, 2 weeks ago. Blizzard did finally respond. They're not going to voluntarily recognize the union. Predictably, they didn't with Raven Software. And they're going to go the same route. They've hired the same high-powered union-busting lawyers that they hired last time, Reed Smith, to try and stop them from voting, saying these 20 or 30 people should not have the ability to say what goes on at the entire studio. We want a studio-wide vote. That already lost once at Raven Software. I would assume that it will lose again when it goes, because they are not trying to unionize the entire studio on the back of a 15 to 25-person vote. So Activision has made the clear and conscious decision to deny us our basic labor rights while once again spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a union-busting firm, says Game Workers Alliance Albany in their press release. So no surprises there. Q, you mentioned Hi-Rez earlier. They're working on a little something that like we didn't even know about. Like they just like kind of dropped a trailer a month or so ago and said nothing. What the hell is this?
So you know how Hi-Rez just kind of went, you know what, we're a whole bunch of different companies now.
Yeah. They were like, remember Hi-Rez? Yeah, now we're Hi-Rez X, Y,
Slash.
Z, A, B, C, Black Wolf Studio, Red Bear Studio, Green Giant. Like I have no idea what the names of them are anymore. There's just
Anyway, so one of those studios, the name is Redbeard Games, and it's their UK studios.
There's
one
a
of their
red
newer
in there.
ones.
I was right.
There's
I was
Redbeard.
right.
Right. And you probably got the giant from Titan Forge.
Look at me. I'm close. Yeah.
But yeah, so Redbeard Games, they announced them, I forget how long back, honestly, but they're like one of their newer companies. And of course, every sub-company is doing their own individual projects by themselves, all sort of generally tied to SMITE in some way, though, which is the case in this one. Apparently, they decided that we don't have enough, of the 2D or the brawler things. We need more. So we now have something called Divine Knockout, which is a brawler with the gods from SMITE, basically. And it's super cute. Like, it's all, chibi and everything. Have no idea how it's actually gonna, they didn't drop any more details other than the trailer you've got going, and that it's happening more or less. But it looks so cute.
Yeah, it's in alpha testing right now. It goes by the acronym or the initials DKO,
Which makes sense.
Kind of playing on TKO. Chat, go ahead and name your game studio. Takala Chat says, I love studio names. They just pick two random-ass names and go with it. And Takala's decided it's going to be Iron Galaxy Studio or Tipsy Cat Studio. So go ahead and name.
That's a good name.
It's a great name.
Tipsy Cat Studios. So go ahead and name your game studio in chat. If you're watching on YouTube or MMO Bomb, go ahead and throw those in there. It won't be the official question of the week, but we will absolutely take your 2-word game studios.
You are allowed to use game or games at the end of it as well.
Yeah, or studios. Yeah.
Games or studios. Or entertainment, I guess, is valid.
We don't count that. We count the first 2 words. Tipsy Cat Studios is definitely on the leaderboard at the moment. So, what, Rose? Can I interest you in a little DKO? You like Smash, but you think multiverses could be a little good. Can I interest you in some cute chibi SMITE characters battling it out?
Like Smash, but on this game, I'm gonna pass.
Oh, couldn't do it. Why?
Yeah. I don't know. It just doesn't look like my cup of tea, personally. It looks cute, but that's about all it's got going for me.
It does look super cute, and it looks fluid. I do like how it's also a 3-dimensional space, right? Because in these brawlers, while the environment looks 3D, they're generally taking place on an X-axis and a Y-axis, no Z-axis, right? In like Smash and things like that. This is a little more. This reminds me a lot more of Power Stone, if anybody remembers that, back on the Dreamcast, Power Stone or Power Stone 2, in that it was that kind of 3D 4-person brawler across the entire landscape. There was an X, Y, and Z axis that you could traverse on. So I do like that, kind of differentiating themselves a little bit from some of the other brawlers we've seen recently that are basically X and Y axis, left and right, and jumping up and down. So I do like that. I haven't played it yet, so I can't comment on how it plays, but it looks smooth. We'll see. Last up before we head to the bombs, I want to see if you agree. Sony has to chime in on the whole Activision Microsoft buyout. And I don't mean just like give a public statement about it, but around the world, the way this works, when you have a acquisition this big, your competition does get to chime in with a number of regulatory bodies, whether that be in the United States, whether it be in Europe or wherever. In this case, We have two interesting findings from statements in Brazil, one in Brazil and one in, I believe it's Australia. Don't quote me. I'll check a little later just to make sure. Where all these other companies are given the chance to chime in on this acquisition. Now, Sony in Brazil, courtesy of Reset Era, they kind of hold Call of Duty in a high regard. High regard, gang. They call it an essential game that has loyal users that are entrenched enough where competitors don't stand a chance. So if you want to make a game that competes with Call of Duty, Sony is telling regulators, in their opinion, you can't. You can't. There's just too many people working on each version of those over year. Too many people involved in publishing, distribution. It's just too massive and too powerful a beast to reasonably compete with. And because of that, they feel that the acquisition of this studio would unfairly make Call of Duty a must-have game and make people slide over to Xbox should it become exclusive. Now, we know the current contract requires that the next 3 Call of Duty titles are also released on PlayStation. What we don't know is what happens after that. Sony making the case that it's just absolutely a title that is a game changer and is a console mover and would cause people to leave Sony and go buy an Xbox simply for Call of Duty. Microsoft, in totally separate regulatory filings, said, hey, yeah, we're going to buy Activision Blizzard, Aspen, but they don't produce any must-have games.
Best comment ever.
They don't produce any must-have games. Who do you agree with here? Who do you agree with, Aspen? Is Sony right? Is Call of Duty that big a game changer as far as console sale movement? Could it be rivaled by something Sony had to create itself if it needed to?
Yeah, I can say with almost like 95% certainty, there is nobody that's like, I'm going to buy a PlayStation because I'm so excited to play COD. Like, that's not happening.
Well, but to their point, though, that's not happening now because nobody thinks of COD not being available somewhere. It's I'm going to buy the PlayStation because Q and my friend Q and my friend Aspen bought a PlayStation and we like playing together, and that just makes it very easy because some things still may not have crossplay. Or I've always bought PlayStation. I like their user interface and their systems and their exclusive titles that they put out. Which, by the way, they didn't bring up here that they put out plenty of exclusive titles or timed exclusive titles. You don't have that concern because it's just like, oh, yeah, when the new Call of Duty comes out, it doesn't matter which system I have. It's going to be there. Sony is saying if the circumstances are different, it does become a console decider.
I still don't think it will unless, so right, like the next 3 games, it's going to be on both systems. It doesn't matter. Come 2023, Call of Duty's taking a year off. There won't be a mainline game in 2023.
Oh, but there'll be premium paid content, baby.
Yeah, exactly. But so let's say that this deal goes off, then maybe, 2024, something big could be made in that like gap year. And maybe, that would be a really smart decision if they played it that way. But I mean, but I think somebody even in the comments mentioned that like Sony just bought like Bungie. Like,
yep.
They're not. Sony just. I feel like they're complaining about nothing. Like, they kind of sound like babies. Like, if you really think that's gonna happen, step up your game. Like, don't do better. It's that simple. You're a big company.
Is COD a console slider, Q?
So this is hilarious to me on so many levels because there was a time when I literally thought of the Xbox as the shooter console and the PlayStation as your RPG.
I 100% agree. There was a time in my brain it was the same way.
And so to me, this is just like, oh, well, if it goes back to Xbox, then it's just like, yeah. And people did buy your consoles that way. I bought PlayStation because I wanted to play JRPGs, shit like that. I did end up living in a multi-console household for a while where like I would play Viva Pinata or something on the Xbox. But yeah, like since I wasn't as interested in shooters, I never really bought an Xbox for myself for the longest time. And yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's one of those words. So it might be one of those things that causes some people to, when there is a next generation of consoles, to slip over. But then you also have to take into account that with a lot of these games, more and more of these games are becoming, not just cross console, but PC,
Yeah.
right? And so while people kind of sometimes look at PC as being a daunting investment up front, the continuous like rising of costs of consoles makes it not that bad. So I think that's what they need to worry about more is like making sure that their consoles are reasonably affordable to people instead of worrying about which game is where. Because at the end of the day, if it's available on PC and it's still available on your console, you might just lose it to, to that over time anyway. But it's just,
Yeah.
yeah,
Shirak in chat saying that they bought their 360 solely for Gears, and I know people that did the same thing, for the original Gears of
yeah.
War. Nasagra saying, I think Sony's right about this. Call of Duty would be a console or platform seller if it was tied to just one platform. I think Microsoft will try to use it as leverage to get the Game Pass on PlayStation. I don't think it'll work, but they'll try. I look at this a couple different ways from Microsoft's standpoint. One is, will it move enough consoles away from PlayStation and into the Xbox ecosphere to make the not insignificant drop in sales worth it, right? Call of Duty is a juggernaut. You might not like the game. It's yourself. That's fine. You cannot deny that it is a juggernaut as far as sales. Even in its terrible years, it sells well. Maybe not as well as they would like, but it sells very, very well, even if in its bad years. Is the loss of those additional PlayStation copy sales worth the X amount of convertees that you will get driving away from Sony consoles into Xbox consoles? Probably not initially, but Xbox has the cash, and we have seen them over all of their console generations, actually, from the Red Ring of Death all the way through DRM only. And like, we have seen them willing to take loss after loss after loss to advance the long-term agenda of Game Pass and domination in the gaming industry. So maybe they are willing to take an X-year loss on Call of Duty sales to kind of slowly push the ecosphere closer to Xbox for a more long-term gain. I don't know. They're spending an awful lot of money right now. There does come a point, no matter how much money you have, that you don't want to spend money anymore, or at least you want to break from spending money. And this Blizzard Activision sale is a not insubstantial amount of money. It's a pittance as far as Microsoft is concerned as a whole. Don't get me wrong. I understand that.
But it's still 10 Bethesdas.
It's still 10 Bethesdas. You got it, Q. 10 Bethesdas. Let's slide over and do the weekly bombs. Got a little bit of a longer show here today. Hope you're enjoying it. Let's finish these up. Actually, it works because you guys were pretty lax on your weekly bombs and your question of the week feedback. I got some here. Thank you to those who put them in the comments. But those of you even in chat, head on over after the show to MMO Bomb when it's up. Throw it in there so I can include it in the show notes. I'm going to give a dub bomb to Turbo Golf Racing. It has launched. It came out yesterday. $20 on Steam, on sale for like $16 and some change right now. If you want to pick it up, it's what I'm going to be streaming afterwards. I streamed the beta. Absolutely love it. If you like Rocket League, obvious comparison being made there, but you were like, oh, the skill level of Rocket League is maybe a little too much or too intimidating. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's maybe in the same ecosphere as Rocket League, but it is nowhere near as skill intensive. That's not to say that you can't get good at it, but you're not going to be learning flip resets and shit like that in Turbo Golf Racing. You'll have a good time. What do you got, Q?
Well, the bomb to it being Friday, and that meaning that the Sandman stuff is available to watch on Netflix now, because that's what Justin and I are going to do at the weekend.
Nice. What about you, Aspen?
A big da bomb to getting into Palia, the cozy MMO's alpha.
Oh,
I've been having so much fun.
congrats.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I wish I could share stuff. Obviously, I can't, but the moment I can, I'm gonna dish it all out.
Yeah, I mean, if you're already in the alpha, we'll set you up to do the first look when we're actually allowed to do the first look video on it.
Might be a while, I feel,
Yeah,
but
it's
yeah.
definitely going to be a while, but we'll put you in line. You can do the first look on that one since you'll have a far more experience than anybody on release day. That's cool. Enjoy.
Yeah, thank you.
From viewers in chat, to Cal saying, A-bomb to me for missing the Hall of Fame game. I know it's not really football, but it's still football. Yeah, and in late July, August, you're jonesing for some football. I get it. Old Glory saying, Dub-bomb to Rose for roasting New World. Made me laugh. Over on YouTube, Raggerty says, A-bomb to Digital Extremes Warframe's new open world fighting dinos and not long arm boys like we have been. Oh, wait. It just looks similar to Warframe with dinos. Jokes aside, that game does look fun. I think you might be talking about Exoprimal, which is Capcom? Or oh, no, you're making a joke. Okay.
It's a joke.
You're making it. I had to reread it, Raggerty. I'm sorry. I don't. Yeah. D's new Warframe open world fighting. Oh, wait. Okay. Now I get you. Your sarcasm was lost on me initially, but I have caught up to you. Go ahead, Q.
All right, Jabber, to bomb to Heroes of the Storm community. You think Blizzard can kill their game? Hell no. Amateur esports scene is still alive and kicking. Really fun to watch. It's like basically the Heroes of the Storm people and the Secret World people were just like, screw you.
Yeah.
You can't kill our shit.
They're the ones keeping that stuff alive. Go ahead, Rose.
The Pie Maker, A-bomb to these bots spamming links in the YouTube comments, Da-bomb to Exoprimal for looking like some unabashedly cheesy capital F fun. In response to Q's comment, the Sharknado of video games right now is definitely Earth Defense Force. Here's hoping Exoprimal gives off a similar kind of vibe.
I hope so. Box says, weekly bomb giving out 2 this week. A dub-bomb to 2K for bringing back Evolve. Yeah, we talked about that last week. Been having a blast playing arcade online against others and doing drunk co-op nights with friends of mine against an AI monster. Almost feels like how the game was originally intended. Also, had a fat A-bomb to the VR chat devs for their implementation of easy anti-cheat. Won't go into all the details, but basically they just screwed the pooch that alienated most of their disabled player base that relied on accessibility add-ons for the sake of using a tool that was cracked by the malicious mod makers that they were targeting within minutes of it going live. Quite the way to shoot themselves in the foot and give their competitors free advertising. I almost would have expected that from Blizzard at this point. Like, I almost would not have been surprised if Blizzard would have been on that headline. Go ahead, Q.
Sector. I'm trying to skim to find Guild Wars 3 news, but I can't find when they talk about it.
Yeah, so on last week's show, we talked very briefly about ArenaNet's job postings at the 2656 mark. It was not a topic by itself, so it did not appear as a part of the page break. 2656 is what you're looking for, and honestly, I'm going to save you some time. None of us think, at least on what we have so far, that is going to be Guild Wars 3. We think it's going to be something else in the Guild Wars universe. Weekly question of the week. What video game do you have the fondest memories of and why? RS Jabber saying, question of the week, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, the original first release. Bringing home a box copy on that iconic 11/11/11 date and listening to the menu music for a good few minutes. Every November, I recall this moment thinking, oh, shit, it's been X years already. Thanks to Todd, I can relive my memories on a regular basis and on regular new platforms. It just keeps coming out. Go ahead, Q.
I'm going to try this. Volvex Arius. So many games playing Half-Life in multiplayer land, StarCraft, Heroes 3, the Black Mirror video game. There's a Black Mirror video game. Anacrox.
And now Q has personal homework.
But there was this little game released in 2000 called No One Lives Forever. Yes. Such a forgotten gem. Such a fun game, and I wish more games would be like that. And beside the diversity of locations that you visit during the game, my fondest memories are the jokes. Close to close to the Get Smart TV show. And the people from Monolith Productions understood this is just a video game and no need to take it serious. Have fun playing it.
I do remember that game. Go ahead, Aspen.
Wow, honestly. Between saving up allowance money and money I made from doing odd jobs in my neighborhood to pay for the game, expansions, and game time as well as all the fond memories I had making friends and enemies with people on my realm back when that meant something, my favorite moments were all the chances of world PvP there were back then when it was encouraged, like during the gates of AQ. Sadly, WoW hasn't interested me in many years now, and Classic just feels like a knife wound with the knife being twisted because I haven't had any faith in ABK since about 2015.
Did you guys see the Adventure Quest shade they threw over on WoW? They published late last night an apology letter to World of Warcraft for them having to cancel their mobile World of Warcraft title. An apology because they just would have had to siphon off all of their players into Adventure Quest mobile anyway. It was a little brutal. Ardix and team being thrown a little shade. Question of the week this week. What's your favorite multiplayer gaming developer and why? Or you could just read the question this way. What company makes the best multiplayer games? If you want to read it that way. Also, don't forget to give us your 2-word gaming studio in the comments. I can't wait to see all of those and bring them to next week's show. Don't forget your weekly bombs while you're there. D-bomb for something good, A-bomb for something bad in the world of gaming or just life in general. We, of course, will be back next week. Until then, Rose, Aspen, where can everybody find you?
You guys can find me at Rose Hoppa on Twitch and Rose Hoppa on Twitter.
Makes it easy. Q.
Yep.
Woman on Twitter.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me personally right there, magicman1, but more importantly, follow at MMOBomb. That way you'll get a tweet every time we go live with our podcast, our streams. You can come over to the site, check out all the articles, first look videos, giveaways, and more. Until next time, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.